bitches, bros, and non-binary hoes. All you kings, queens, and everyone in between. So, as an autistic person, and I've gotten some feedback from some well-meaning people, such as, "But you act so normal." I find such microaggressions to be so backhanded, because what they mean to say is that I just suck at being autistic. Little do they know, I've been practicing my stimming in secret. I got my fidget spinner in my pocket, and I can just spin it with my thumb. I'm basically a Jedi of autism. But instead of fighting with a lightsaber, I fight with drag, humor, and a pair of noise-canceling headphones. Sometimes, however, I do struggle with the dark side of the Force when it comes to overwhelming sensory inputs, stimuli, and social interactions. Matter of fact, I do have the capacity to have Darth Vader-like meltdowns. I just lack the kick-ass helmet. But like how a Jedi can learn to control the Force, I've learned to use my autism for good. And tonight, I will be using my Force to entertain you and hopefully bring you smiles and laughter. And if that doesn't work, I can just use the Jedi mind trick. You find me very entertaining. You find me very hilarious. Holy shit, that worked. Huh. Let's try something else. You find me very submissive and breedable. I haven't been able to do a whole lot of comedy up until now, so I consider myself very privileged to be up here on this stage. And as an audience, you should consider having an autistic comedian perform for you as a special privilege. After all, it's one of the very few times that you'll be able to laugh at the disabled. However, one of the other things that since we are a marginalized group, we have very special protections, just as if we were an endangered species. We're that rare of a breed. So if you try to heckle me, that's considered a hate crime. So if you're thinking of doing it, don't. Matter of fact, don't even think about thinking about it. With that out of the way, let's get down to it. So autism is a spectrum. There are no two of us that are alike. Each one of us is like our own rare limited edition. I often find that people who use outdated terms like mild autism and Asperger's syndrome are just saying that we have all the positive qualities without any of the drawbacks. They're also saying that if we were a flavor, it'd be called diet autism. There are also the same people who would come up with such flavors like Autism Zero or Autism Max. I can just imagine the tagline. All the neurodiversity, but none of the calories. Like diet autism, people will say that Asperger's syndrome, which isn't a medical terminology anymore, by the way, is a light version of the real thing. But I will tell you, there is nothing light about the world's lack of understanding and acceptance. With any diet, it's not always effective. And you just can't cut out certain aspects of autism and expect it to go away. It's like making rice out of cauliflower or having too small of a butt plug. It may be healthier, but it's not very filling. Yeah, wig falls off a Drag Queen's head. Ha 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 ha. I'm good. But with any diet, you have to find out what foods work for you. And that's the same with autism. There's no one-size-fits-all package for everyone because we all experience it differently. And like dieting, social interaction usually requires a lot of moderation. Some of us prefer being socially interactive, while others prefer being alone for a certain period of time. Yeah. It's like finding the right dildo size. Too little and we're underwhelmed. Too much and we'll shut down. I'm like the Goldilocks of dildos and social interaction. I just need to find something that's just right. I'll also tell you, there are different flavors of autism that neither Coca-Cola or PepsiCo can even come up with. All the flavors of Kit Kat bars in Japan don't even begin to cover it. Not even the aisle in Walmart with all the Oreo flavors don't begin to cover it. Though I wouldn't mind being double stuffed in a sandwich, if you know what I mean. Personally though, I like to think of myself as an artisanal type of autism. Small batch, locally sourced, non-GMO, gluten-free, and I carry no artificial flavors or preservatives. Also, unlike other queens like Detox, Trinity the Tuck, or Chad Michaels, I contain no filler. I'm 100% all natural, baby. By the way, this cake is also free to sample after the show. Going back to diets. As a child, you could say that I was a picky eater. Looking back at it, I prefer to say that my taste buds were very selective. Then again, my taste buds would usually select a grilled cheese sandwich, even if we were out just getting a Happy Meal. Hashtag texture problems. As I've gotten older though, I've been a bit more adventurous with trying food. Whenever my dad tried cooking steak for me as a kid, I hated it. But now that I'm older, I can't get enough of it. So there's two things that I took away from all this. One, I prefer my steak rare, and two, my dad was dog shit at cooking steak. Unfortunately, as an unintended side effect, while my palate has expanded, so has my waistline. Being a big girl and looking for drag to wear isn't always easy, especially for a goth queen. Despite being the Antichrist in Madison, there are some things that even I'm not capable of. No matter how many bloody pentagrams I draw on the floor, no matter how many babies I sacrifice, nor how many times I chant the words of the Necronomicon, I can't even conjure up a plus size section in the Hot Topic. Also, word of advice, do not do any blood rituals in the Hot Topic. It's a very quick way to get kicked out of them all. One misconception that I would like to address. Many of you have probably heard about the myth that vaccines cause autism. This was shown in a falsified study by Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and when it came out, he lost his medical license. Yet to this day, he speaks on behalf of groups such as Autism Speak, and he continues to spread such misinformation that has caused the deaths of several children and adults, all while capitalizing on our disability. What I'm saying is that Andrew Wakefield is to the autism community is what Kevin Spacey is to the LGBTQ community. A couple other misconceptions about autism I would like to address. Not all of our special interests include such things like Jeopardy, Thomas the Tank Engine, or even the furry fandom. I mean, it makes up most of our interests, but that's not the point I'm making. They say that being obsessed with a niche subject is a sign of autism. However, I think it's a sign of dedication. If Beethoven had been diagnosed with autism, we wouldn't have had the Moonlight Sonata. Instead, we'd have the Moonlight Sonata Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Albert Einstein's special interest was in physics, which led him to discover the theory of relativity. However, I believe if he were alive today, and if he were a social media influencer, he'd have discovered the theory of relatability. Hashtag E equals MC squared. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, autistic person needs a phone as a crutch. Alright. I can imagine that it was hard for him to find a partner. Not because he was autistic, but he would always come at the speed of light. I truly do believe that Van Gogh was autistic. The reason I do is because as a result of autism, I have misophonia. Certain noises are louder for me than others. Therefore, I can see why Van Gogh would go Reservoir Dogs on his ear. Can you hear me now? Much like autism, I also believe that gender is a spectrum. They say that gender is a construct. So are the Confederate monuments in the South, but we tore those down. The Berlin Wall was also a construct, but we broke through that barrier as well. The Two Towers was the best film in the Lord of the Rings franchise. I'm sorry, I have a bit of undiagnosed ADHD, so my train of thoughts tends to go to other places, or in this case, my plane of thoughts. So where was I? Oh yeah, gender constructs. I believe in tearing down traditional gender roles, but as I keep going along, I keep packing on back roles. Alyssa Edwards ain't got nothing on me, honey. I identify as bi-pan and gender fluid / trans questioning. Of course, being autistic and gender non-conforming, they both have similar challenges. Whether it's fitting into gender norms or societal norms, it's like trying to fit into a pair of skinny jeans. It may be the trendy thing to do, but it's not always very comfortable. It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole, except the peg is shaped like me, and the hole is shaped like my asshole. Either way, though, I do enjoy a good pegging. Being gender fluid, I often find that my gender identity often shifts. Some days I feel more masculine, some days I feel more feminine, sometimes nothing at all, or even somewhere in between. What I realize is that I'm not just on the spectrum of gender, but I'm also on the spectrum of mood swings. If my gender is as fluid as my autism and my mood swings, I am definitely gonna need a bigger boat. Though like Jaws, I often find myself swimming amongst the sharks in my day-to-day life. But instead of sharks, I find myself surrounded by societal expectations, which are just as scary. Also like Jaws, I will eat you. Out. But really though, I'm just trying to navigate the choppy waters of gender and society. And I will say that when tackling such subjects such as autism and gender, it can be scary for some people as sharks of the ocean. But the more you understand it, the less intimidating it becomes. And I do hope that I can be the dorsal fin of change. Da da da, da da da, da 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 da. Progress! Well, I hope that I've been able to help navigate you through the vast and diverse spectrum of autism as well as gender identity. I also hope that I've shown you that we're not all like Rain Man. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go binge watch my DVR recordings of Jeopardy. Have a good night, everyone!